Welcome to In the Groove with Todd and Jackie, the podcast where good vibes meet great conversations and change makers take center stage.
Each week, we sit down with inspiring authors, impactful speakers, and visionary leaders who are making a difference in the world.
We're bringing you powerful insights, engaging stories, and actionable ideas to amplify your voice and spark meaningful change.
So get ready to get in the groove as we dive into conversations that uplift, inspire, and empower.
Now, here's Todd and Jackie.
Hey, it's another groovy day, and that's because we make it that way. Welcome to In the Groove with Todd and Jackie. Todd is usually to my left, and unfortunately, at this taping, he is in the hospital being treated, and hopefully will be released sometime today. But as they say, the show must go on, and our guest today is such an important personality to talk with that I wanted to make sure we did not delay the airing of this episode for you. So with that, I'm Jackie. I'm missing Todd, but you have just tuned into the podcast where good vibes meet great conversations and change makers take center stage. And besides this podcast, Todd and I have the mission to help people's voices and messages be heard. And one of those stages where messages can be heard that are important is a TEDx stage. And we have coached several young people to achieve that prestigious title of a TEDx speaker, because even as young as 9 or 10 years old, these kids understand that they've overcome something that can be inspirational and helpful to someone else. So a TEDx talk is where you get to spread ideas of solutions to problems that someone else might be able to try and find success in as well. And so if you're interested in that prestigious stage of TEDx, you can contact me, contact Todd, and let's see if we can't help you design that perfect speech that is going to inspire many. You can do that in a couple of ways. You can go to toddandjackie.com, and there's a tab there on our website that's called Impact and Outreach, and that will put you in touch with the Speak Feed Lead Project, which is the nonprofit that I run. You can also go to JackieBailey360.com. That's my hub website. And you'll actually be able to view videos of our clients giving their TEDx talks from that site. So either way you go, I look forward to perhaps meeting with you, and let's get you on that stage. So today, bringing some good vibes so we can have a great conversation is sort of a part 2 episode to another one we recently had. And this is a change maker named Iain Robertson. Iain is actually the father of Kayleigh Robertson, who we hosted recently on our show. And as I said, this is going to be part 2 of her story. As a daddy-daughter team, Iain and Kayleigh are embarking on a journey to create programs on the concept that each have learned navigating the storm of mental illness. Kayleigh will be joining us in a few minutes on this very episode, and you can find her in a couple of ways. You can go to her website, digitalrecoverycenter.org, as well as Digital Else on Substack. That's where you can find Kayleigh's writings. I'm going to say that one more time. Digital Else on her Substack channel. But for now, Iain, it is so delightful to have you here. I was so impressed and inspired by Kayleigh's story, and so I'm excited to get your perspective today. So welcome to In the Groove with Todd and Jackie.
Thank you very much. Right. Glad to be here.
Well, you've got the attention of our amazing audience, and right off the bat, I'd like to know, in a couple of sentences, a quick summary, what's the important message that they're going to hear from you today?
Folks are going to hear, I'm really trying to reach out to parents more than anything else, is that they understand they're in a driver's seat to control their children's destiny and the tools that they have growing up. And I really think it's important parents learn from what's available to them today. As far as information, as an example, we had the recent Facebook, YouTube lawsuit over social media, the impact it has on children, and the irresponsibility of corporations. I think it's important parents recognize that their children are being manipulated, and they know now. So I think that's the underlying message more than anything else is parents to understand you have the tools now to make change. When I was starting out with Kayleigh 10, 15 years ago in this issue, we had no clue. We had no idea that they were doing what they were doing. The corporations were doing what they're doing with the data, the manipulation of the software and the apps. So I think
I
that
don't think,
sums it up.
yeah, thank you for that. But I don't think anybody had a clue.
No.
And I and I think we are still starting to figure that out. And I think it's going to take probably a couple more decades before we realize the damage that has been done. And I don't mean to like smack down on internet and social media because there are pluses to that. There's a lot of ways that we can learn faster and get information that we
Yes.
need to
That's one of
quicker.
that's actually an ongoing debate with Kayleigh and I.
Is it?
Yes. I'm a musician, I'm an artist as well. So I understand the value of Instagram
Right.
for an artist. I
Yeah.
understand the value of social media for an artist breaking out.
Right.
But there's the line.
Yes.
It ends there. And it's not my lifestyle. It's not something where, as a musician or an artist, I'm going in every single day and living and learning what everyone else is doing. I'm focused on my own art, trying to promote it. That's a tool.
Yeah.
But when it becomes an addiction, whereas I can't get through the day without looking at it, or I
Yeah.
can't get through an afternoon without checking on what people think about me, then we have a breakdown
Yeah.
of the
When that
system.
becomes our sole connection to everything
Yes.
else, there,
Yes.
there's a
So,
problem.
and the value of the internet, then when you look at the internet as a bigger picture, I don't think, and I hate to sort of digress into the world affairs that we have today, but I honestly, knowing what I know from when I was a child and what I've read in history over the last 25, 30 years, and in what I know today, we know we're knowing a lot more information what's going on in the world, in particular a war in the Middle East, that we wouldn't know otherwise. We'd be
Yeah.
limited to whatever the media was going to tell us, the Walter Cronkites of the world. And that was sort of where the trust level lied. Whereas today we have so much exposure and so much opportunity to do our own research. And
Yeah.
then the YouTubers presenting their own news feeds and so on and so forth. We were looking at, things last night that you wouldn't see on regular media channels. So
Right.
that's where the internet has a value of education, knowledge, understanding what's going on in the world in real time. And it's not through the lens of a corporation or a newscaster or a president who wants
Yeah.
the information to be told a certain way.
Yeah.
So that's where the internet has value. And this is where the debate begins with Kayleigh and I going back and forth about how it's used and how it's available and how it's being manipulated. And I think that's where I'm 100% with Kayleigh. People are being manipulated. We're being
Yeah.
tracked. We're being managed. We're being herded. And the divisiveness in our world and our culture right now, I really think is a result of social media, period, full stop.
And I think manipulation is the perfect word to
The,
describe it.
yeah,
And
the algorithm alone,
yeah.
the design of it
So,
is to do that.
yeah. So eventually I want to get to the point where I want to hear from you what you would have done differently had you known. So let's kind of put that out
Okay.
there in the ether for now. But I first want to say to the audience, if you have not yet listened to our episode with Kayleigh, go do that because we don't have time to go over her full story again here. So make sure that you go back, listen to Kayleigh's episode so that it makes more sense now as we dive in on the perspective that her father has to give about this. So, Iain, Kayleigh opened my eyes to so many things, and she mentioned that as a teenager, she can look back now to those times and realize she was developing this sort of fourth identity.
Fourth person syndrome, yeah.
And it started to retrain her brain in ways to think about the world and see the world in a different perspective that was going back to that manipulative ideal of her brain was being trained in a certain way to
Mhm.
react to a certain, life situation, and it wasn't good. It didn't lead to a good road. So let's take you back then to that point as a parent. What did you start to see? I think this is going to be really valuable information for any parent now who is open-minded enough to say, you know what, let me take a second look at what I'm doing here. Am I part of that manipulation? So let's
Yeah.
let's go back and start to tell us, what kind of kid was Kayleigh when she was younger, and when did you start to see that there were changes being made in her?
Um, I may be off on my age numbers, but it'd be only off by about a year. The Kayleigh you see today is the Kayleigh that we had until she was about 12. And just started closing down. And we had experience with two teenage girls before that. And it wasn't like the other two teenage girls. And they're polar opposites, believe me. The oldest, Jillian, and Ariel, our middle girl. Jillian was the girly girl in high school, and into sports. She was like the jock, the girl jock. Played rugby, was a wrestler. Ariel is the artist. She is in Concordia University now studying to get her master's or reaching towards her master's in art. She's an artist full on. So polar opposites in personalities. But
Mm.
as a 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old, they were both similar what you'd expect from a teenager. What you and I, Jackie, would have experienced as teenagers. That's the teenage angst that we were experiencing. The biggest issue at the time, believe it or not, I remember with Jillian, she was around 14. We gave her a cell phone. It was a flip phone. And the kids text messages. That's what they did, text each other.
Right.
We got a bill one month for $90 for text messages because they cost money. And
Yeah.
so that was the dilemma.
Right.
That's what you and I grew up with. But when Kayleigh came along, that was free. Now, text messages until your cows come home and everything was different, but there was no Facebook and there
Right.
was no social media with Jillian or with Ariel. And we actually had to force Ariel to take a phone. She hated the idea of having to have a phone and just being attached like that. She like I said to you earlier, we were speaking when we were 14 years old, Jackie, you and I were 14. We didn't want to talk to our parents. Oh no, my mom's calling. Oh no.
That's
Right?
right.
That's our dilemma. Whereas today, the expectation is, hi mom, how are you? Hi dad, how are you? Like it's an all day long thing. It's just communication with the cell phone, or at least checking in.
Yeah.
Side digression. We were just shopping, and we're in the middle of the country in Nova Scotia right now. Jillian or Kayleigh and her boyfriend, her fiance, live in Toronto. He's at work. The first thing Kayleigh did when we got in the grocery store is I told her on a tracker to see where Anthony is because Anthony's involved with some things today. And she's
Mm.
just worried about him, concerned. But she put on a tracker to track him. Where is he? That's a tool for adults.
Yeah.
And I think that's a logical thing. Why not? It makes sense to me. She's concerned about her husband or future husband when he's safe and so on. Him's vice versa back with her. That's fine. But when we're 12 years old, 14 years old, wondering what our friends are doing and what they're saying behind their back and what they're wearing tomorrow and what they're thinking about me now, that's when the tracker loses the whole system falls apart. Sorry, I digressed. But I think
So
that's what
yeah, so when did you start to see changes in Kayleigh? I
yeah, it
understand that
was.
you got a deal, you got a free phone. You got a free
Well, that
phone
was
for
it.
minutes.
I was becoming an entrepreneur and starting a new business. We had no money for Christmas, and Bell was giving away a free phone because that's when they were free in those days.
Mm-hmm.
Sign up for the plan, that's where they made their money. So we gave Kayleigh a phone for Christmas. And I can still remember seeing her hand shake when she was opening it. Oh my God, a phone. Big deal. And I've sort of talked about this a little bit with her, every now and then. Within about 2 months, she dropped it and it broke. The screen broke.
And how old was she at this point?
13, grade 8.
13. Okay.
And I said to her now, I said that was a sign of what was to come.
Mm,
was this broken screen so soon.
mm,
And I want to say it was starting into grade 9 through the summer when the texting became a bit of an issue. And again, when you text somebody, you're only conveying the message that's in your head. It's not going to be read the same way you think because it's what are you doing right now? There's no intonation, no inflection,
right.
understand what the text means. So we started seeing Kayleigh just digress, and it was 2013, and I got a call from a paramedic. Excuse me. She had tried to kill herself. But I remember the paramedic being very calm and saying, no, she's fine. She's here with me, and Kayleigh's in good spirits. Everything's good. It was an accident, blah, blah, blah. But then, 24 hours later, I sort of knew something was wrong there. And her mother and I were, is she lying to us? Like, are we being misled here? And then a few months later was another call because of something a friend had said. And then it's like, wait a minute, we're trying to take our life over a friend or what
Mm.
a friend said. So that's when we realized, okay, we got a problem. Something's wrong.
And this was how long after she'd gotten the phone?
A year,
Wow.
yeah, within a year. And then I think we got the iPhone, and then it just went to hell. Now, I want to put this in, and I don't think Kayleigh's mentioned this, but I think it is important for the audience to understand that her mother and I were going through our own issues at the time, and we had
Mm,
separated when Kayleigh was 15, 16 in that area. So it was a bit of a challenging environment. But I mean, she was 16, she wasn't 12, she wasn't 8. So it was an age where her mother and I assumed it shouldn't be too much of a difficult issue. She had older sisters for support, that sort of thing. But none of that happened because her sisters
mm,
didn't understand what was going on with her. Kayleigh didn't speak our language. She didn't speak what logic had told us all of our lives and what we had taught our daughters and what we taught Kayleigh. It was just a different child. I started researching at that point. Something's going on. And there was a girl in Ottawa who had killed herself, who had finished the job. And it was because of social media. The father had figured it out. And the symptoms that he had expressed when because he was doing what I'm doing now, outreaching through CBC. It was like a news, tell your story thing.
mm.
His expression was that all of the different symptoms the daughter had, what I was seeing in Kayleigh. And then add to the fact that Kayleigh just hadn't successfully completed the task.
Right.
So that was when we realized, okay, there's more going on
There's
here.
more going on.
And probably about a year later, I think was when the suicide stuff stopped. But the issues didn't go away because the phone didn't go away. And then it actually just got worse on a different scale. Like
Yeah.
for Kayleigh's sake, I'd almost wish she had that era of being 15, 16, 17 to replace what she went through when she was 18, 19, 20, 21. Because that was hell.
How many attempts to suicide did she make? Or
I,
one?
I remember 5, but Kayleigh says 6, and
Wow.
I may have missed one. And I don't
Wow.
mean to make that sound like I wasn't responsible, but it was just so much was going on at the time.
Right.
And memory does have a way of blocking out things at times, but
And
definitely
and
5.
you never imagined that it might have been the phone. I mean, that was not something that
Oh,
you
we knew
were
that then. We knew about
connecting.
I want to say by the 3rd attempt, we were convinced it was the phone,
Okay.
but we didn't realize it was social media
Mm,
itself and the tools. And I mean, Kayleigh has taught me as much as she's taught her audience of what is going on in there and how it affects the brain. And I'm a hobbyist when it comes to psychology, philosophy, and anthropology. And I read a lot on this stuff. As an example, a great book as a parent, and I recommend this highly to all of you. I Hate You, Get Out of My Life. But first, can you take me and Cheryl to the mall? That is the book
right.
title. That is the book title, and
Interesting.
explains why we as children, Jackie, you and I, we didn't listen to our parents, but we listened to our buddies' parents, and it's just the psychology of a child.
Hmm.
So I've sort
Yeah.
of lost my train of thought where I was going.
That's all right. So what was the first step you took to start helping her, and who did you send her to, or how did you find someone to help her? I mean, I guess it's
That
kind of a
was
confusing
more,
question, but what did
honestly,
you do first?
honestly, that was a lot of that was on her mother at the time. I was living in Toronto and Kayleigh was living in Barrie with her mom. And it was sort of a day-to-day thing with her mom that she was managing. I was sort of hearing the stories as it went along from Allison, daily or weekly summaries of what was happening with Kayleigh. And I'd hear from Kayleigh as well too. But it was really, I think once it was around 18, 19 that Kayleigh and okay, I'm back sort of heavily involved in her life. I was moved back to Barrie at that point. And just watching everything that she was going through. And I'm like, I'm watching a short, a YouTube
Yeah.
short. Just every time, one week it would be one thing, next week it was another thing, next week another. And it was, I think, we couldn't take the phone away. It wasn't our option at any time. We tried to, but it was like, okay, this is your lifeline to whatever friends or anything you have going on. You need to have this. We tried that. It wasn't a great success, but it was an attempt. But once the iPhone came in, it was done. We were done with it.
Yeah.
So it became more about managing the issue. Again, not knowing that she was constantly being drugged and dosed by social media and the algorithm. We had no clue that, and she didn't. I mean, it was there. It was just happening. We didn't realize the extent of it. And it's only in the last 2 years that I think that both of us have come to terms with, my God, the poison was just being shoved into your mouth, in your head, that you just don't know is happening. Because the
Was she
algorithm changes your views hourly. Like
right?
I'm pro-abortion now, I'm anti-abortion now. It's that extreme
Yeah.
in a matter of 5 or 6 clicks or swipes.
You said earlier that she had shut down.
Hmm.
So was she not you said she talked to you once in a while, but was she
It was
communicating openly with you,
no.
or was she just
Well, she would at times if she was in a good enough mood, and this is sort of the symptoms that I'd seen from the other gentleman in Ottawa with his daughter. Like she's back to being the kid we knew, and then she'd look at her phone and just shut down and disappear.
mm,
And it would be 2 or 3 days before we saw the kid again. And that
mm,
distance grew further and further apart where we didn't see that our kid anymore. But yeah, she just sort of went into her own world and would just be quiet and try to talk to her and it'd be, yeah, okay. And what you
yeah,
said would just be gone. I don't even think she heard us.
right. Okay. Um, I think this is a good time to take a short break.
Sure.
Let's kind of regroup here, and when we come back from our break, we're going to invite Kayleigh to join us, and
Mhm.
I'm excited to see the two of you together. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
There's no box that generosity fits into. You know, we have to be observant, we have to be aware, and we have to reflect and realize the impact that it has had on our lives.
Leslie Nelson. Leslie is the founder and the chief executive officer of Pivotal Connections, LLC. She's a Maxwell Leadership Certified team member, is the author of a book. It's called Giving Recklessly, Testimonials and Examples to Inspire Higher Levels of Generosity.
What we're going to come away with today.
I know at the end of this conversation, we're going to have a better perspective on how generosity fits into every aspect of our life. Generosity, you figure out what it means to you. It has multiple meanings. We know it means giving, sharing, giving of ourselves, but we have to find ways to uniquely show those examples and to do them. Pivotal Connections, LLC.
Okay.
The book is on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and Walmart.com, and it's called Giving Recklessly. And finally, I will, in the very near future, have a book. It's going to be a generosity workbook. So you can go to generosityworkbook.com.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to In the Groove with Todd and Jackie. You just got Jackie solo today, but we have joining us now is Kayleigh Robertson with her dad, Iain. And it's a magnificent experience they've had together, and one that every parent and every perhaps teenager needs to be aware of, and the way that manipulation happens and is happening in our society with our kids and families. So, Kayleigh, welcome back to In the Groove with Todd and Jackie.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much.
It's been so powerful to have your dad's perspective. And before the break, we're talking about how the first steps he took to start to help you in this situation. And you'd already, we'd gone past the first suicide attempt. But I want to clarify that my belief is that the first help you got was because of your first suicide attempt. That was in the hospital, where at least now there was a reason to look deeper into what was going on with you. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's correct. I was brought to hospital where I was placed on a 72-hour psychiatric hold in the hospital due to self-harm concerns. And at this time, I was kept in the hospital for 3 weeks, which is a lengthy time.
That's a long time
to be kept in a mental health unit in a hospital. And even, everything that was going on and explaining what I was feeling, what I was going through, the doctors didn't even understand really what exactly was going on with me, because again, and I'm involved in the clinical sphere, it's my education as well. When you don't meet a full criteria of a DSM-5, the diagnosis becomes questionable, and doctors couldn't quite understand, because I had certain symptoms of deluded thoughts, disordered thinking, but she wasn't hallucinating. So that's not checked off on this box of where we're at in psychosis because of everything that was going on. This is sort of what they were exploring with me. So there was definitely in the hospital, I'm a big believer in support in clinical care when it's needed and when it's necessary. There were groups and things that I was a part of, but the unfortunate sort of experience that I had, and that many people have, is what's called spontaneous recovery, where you go in these hospital situations and you think, okay, I'm fine now. Like, I'm going to be okay. Everything's fine. And where there is a difference in, mental health and physical health is just the way that we are now experiencing it, right? Like a physical health, you do come out of the hospital, you have physiotherapy. It's going to take a while to get back into, your life. Mental health, it's the same experience, but in many ways, you're kind of coming back maybe to shambles. That's the reality of the life you're experiencing. So I had repeated hospitalizations at that point, from January to June, July, summertime of that year. I was hospitalized 6 times over that.
Did they take the phone away from you, Kayleigh?
So in the hospital at the time they did, but a fact for all the viewers, they no longer do that in mental health units. You're allowed to keep your phone on you now. But at the time they did. And this is sort of where I think, I reflect, knowing what I know now, of the phone being taken away from me in the hospital. And I did start to feel better. I didn't have constant output. And I think too, if I would have had that phone, the things I would have been posting online, like I would have made things so much worse for myself and my community, and the stigma I already was facing. So I'm thankful for that for me, but it's not the same now. And I, as an outpatient mental health worker, deal with the ramifications of what has happened when somebody in the unit has had their phone on them.
So was there any connection made then to this girl doesn't have her phone and she appears to be getting better?
No, there was no data. There was no nothing. Like, no one understood at that point. And even from like myself, at this point, as we spoke about in our last episode, like the persona I was experiencing was alive and well. For me, I remember dictating to my poor mother that she bring like certain clothes into the hospital for me to wear, and all these things, because I was in this like complete alter ego of perception, right? And what I wanted people to perceive online, I was now living in real life, which we know now is my theory of the fourth person, which many people go through. But this was sort of that, experience in the hospital, and there was no dot connecting of the phone and Instagram.
The truth is, Allison would have been helping and feeding it by succumbing. Okay, I'll bring what you're asking.
Without knowing.
Exactly.
That's sort of it. And I want to interject here, because I think there's an important, I mentioned earlier, memory lapses. I think The count is correct, but the timing is off. So Kayleigh experienced 2 hospitalizations prior to her suicide. But
Mm,
we, including Kayleigh, I don't think really understood what was happening with those first two and the reason for them. And that's my important part, is the reason for them, not, and that's why I mentioned, okay, you're going to the hospital because a friend called you isn't being nice. Is that serious? It wasn't the friend. It was social media that was doing this, but none of us
Other
realized it.
people.
It was
mm,
yeah, it was just, and almost like called it an excuse, but the full on, okay, I want to kill myself. That was the January event. It was Family Day. It was just around Family Day,
got it.
in February. So,
So just to clear that up
yeah,
though, like so when in the September of grade 9, there was a suicide attempt that I didn't get hospitalized at that time.
no, she didn't.
It was,
Came
to
home
be
the
quite
next
honest
day.
with you, talked out of like it was kept from like it was a secret that we had in our family due to stigma. And in grade 10, that's when I experienced going into the hospital, like actually being hospitalized
Yeah,
because of a suicide attempt. My sister's husband was involved. Like it was a very
that was the
intense
big
experience.
deal. That was
And
the turning point.
that
Okay.
was the turning point. From January again to that summertime, there was repeated
Yeah.
hospitalizations.
And the
Right.
people,
Got it.
and the other issue that, and this was one of my personal peeves of the time, and again, no one knew, but she was with some, cohorts in that environment. So they're talking amongst themselves, having their own little ideals of what was going on. And it's like, is that the right thing we want to have going on here? And I
Mm,
don't suggest isolation, and I'm not a professional, but just as a note, it's sort of like, okay, she didn't have her phone, but she still was behaving in a persona, and she was still surrounded by other people who were playing in that same field, in that same game. And again, no one knew that
yeah.
this was what was driving the bus with all of this psychosis in the room. And just a quick note, but the fast forward is now the stories that I learn about and I read about and that are current, and some of the things Kayleigh tells me is, very high level, but it's just like that you wouldn't believe this situation. And
Yeah.
it's wow, it is like so much worse now.
Mm.
Hmm.
So much
Mm.
worse now. And it's on different levels of worseness.
Yes.
It's like extortion wasn't a thing back then.
The fentanyl on
The
Snapchat, like the
fentanyl, all the
crazy.
drugs, and all the things that can happen with children now. And this is where parents really need to understand you're giving your kid a loaded weapon and saying, don't fire it. Keep it on safety. You're giving them a case of alcohol and saying, okay, don't share it and don't be
Mm,
drinking it during school. It's that serious that this is causing major problems, and parents are clueless until it's too late.
yeah.
So you're being told
Yeah.
right now, don't make this mistake because it's going to be a life-changing one. And Kayleigh changed our lives. And I like to think to the better now because she became a phoenix and rose from the shithole she was in, pardon my language. But she is the exception.
Yeah.
And we need more people like Kayleigh, hopefully, that come around and start to survive. And I think that's Kayleigh's mission in life now, is to create a whole bunch of people just like her. Her goal is to clone as many
Right.
Gen X or Gen Z and prevent Gen Alpha from becoming her.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
and
think that's, oh,
that's a good
sorry.
segue, Katie, into
Yeah.
what you're doing today.
Mhm.
Yes, right.
We didn't get to talk too deep into that in our first episode with you.
Mhm.
So why don't you tell a little bit about what you're seeing at the Digital Recovery Center right now that you operate?
Most definitely. I was great minds think alike. That's what I was going to say. What a great segue.
Yeah.
To kind of discuss what's happening right now with Gen Z and people that are my age and even a little bit younger. What I'm seeing is again like a lack of employment, a lack of drive for the future. When I was 20, the last thing I wanted to do was work. I was embarrassed to have a job, and the idea of making anything less than a $500,000 a year was terrifying. Like it was this complete disconnect from reality that happened because of what status and wealth was shown to me on Instagram as culture and media evolved with Gen Z. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost eerie to see how it's aged with us. And
Yeah.
what the ramifications are now is people who are 25 that are unemployed, they're not going to school, they don't have drive. they are changing their degrees 2 or 3 times before they get it right, so to speak. And it's no fault of their own. And this is, I think, a very important piece. I've listened to other parents speak, I've listened to other educators speak that are not Gen Z. And there's a huge blame that has been placed onto Gen Z about this. They question, like, what's wrong with them? When they just simply don't understand. Like, this is a completely different fabric of life and socialization that we have grown up with that is embedded in us now. And the only way, in my view, in my opinion, in my research, to kind of cover all my spheres is not to mediate our use with social media when you have been embedded in this fabric. The only way out of this is to remove it from your life entirely.
Pull the plug.
So Digital Recovery Center is not a detox center. It's not a wellness center. It is helping individuals like myself who went through the severe psychological harms of having psychosis, having a difficult time managing finances to the level of extreme debt, to managing pornography addictions and the things that we're seeing with young men right now, overarching into their lives to completely change what the expectation of the world is in their life with women, with money, with themselves. And the same thing goes for young women who have gone down this route of like extreme plastic surgery and they're 22.
Or trad wives.
You know, the trad wives, these, like all of these trends and cultures that we're seeing online that are destroying people's lives. This is what the Digital
In
Recovery
the short
Center,
term. And it's always a short-term
Yes.
view.
and this is what the Digital Recovery Center really supports, is these mindsets and helping heal that from removal. So the biggest thing, you know, I'm such a big push of like delete your social media, but the reality is, you know, we've mentioned when I was 19, 20, 21, this was the worst time in my life where I was embedded in all of these infrastructures that I just labeled. So embedded in these mindsets. And deletion wasn't this magic movie moment of like, oh, I'm fine. Deletion was what I call emotional annihilation. Like my ego was like just completely folded apart and destroyed. And I felt like I'd lost a game. You know, this persona that I had developed in my life and these ideals, they all still had to change. And it's this hard reboot, and it's a very uncomfortable reboot, and it's very lonely. It is not enjoyable to go through that, you know, and this is why it's so hard to walk away from these experiences. So a big piece of that Digital Recovery Center is also helping people almost like reintegrate into reality and into life, into expectations. Because even people that are not on Instagram and on TikTok, but maybe they're on YouTube Shorts, they're still getting this steady stream and conveyor belt of information that knows how old they are, that knows what they're doing. So for young men, that's a big place where the manosphere culture has taken hold of them. And all of a sudden, they're now developing ideas of, oh, I make one quick investment and I'm a millionaire, right? And that completely changes their life and their mindset. We have to reintegrate that person into understanding that making $80,000 a year, making $50,000 a year, that's a good job. That's fine. You're going to pay your bills. Like, let's deal with inflation and all the things, like the reality.
Yeah. Buying groceries.
That's what we got to be worried about, right? Like it's the reality. So it's integrating in reality. And I have a hard time sometimes being able to explain this to Gen Z, because it's either they're embarrassed of that reality, they don't want to be attached to that reality.
They're not experienced enough in life to understand.
And
it.
their experience is their phone that's told them something different about life, right? So it's very difficult sometimes, I think, for them to just simply understand that they themselves are invested in that mindset. Like they don't even realize, the same way I didn't know at 20. You know, it's all kind of the same. As I mentioned to you before, that breaking point was when everything fell apart because of it, right?
It's a quick fix or a quick shot world now, the dopamine being obviously part of that factor. But something Kayleigh had mentioned just a few minutes ago made me think about this. And again, Jackie, you and I have mentioned a couple of times when we were kids, right? So when we were kids, the influencers for us were like Dynasty on TV. Like, wow, that's wealth. That's what it's like to be rich. Wow, you know, but we always had in the back of our mind, well, it's TV, it's may not real. Today, we have influencers who are Kayleigh's peers. And they're in their living room saying, look at all the money I got, and look at my jewelry, and I just went on vacation, and they're taking these fake photos from airplanes. This is my private jet.
Yeah.
That is the lifestyle that they're being influenced by which is way outside the box of where we
What's
were.
actually achievable. Yeah.
Well, and just, but even it, it's the Disney movie. Don't you remember? I'm the one
Right.
who wins, right?
That's right.
And it's the
That's
same
right.
thing is that we got it as we were smart enough when we were 14, 15, 16 years old to know that, okay, yeah, lifestyles of the rich and famous. All of that
Mm-hmm.
was, okay, that's them.
Right.
I need to get a job. We had that
Right.
perspective. I want to be able to go to the movies this weekend with my girlfriend, boyfriend. I want to buy a case of beer. Now it's like, okay, I want to go buy beer in Mexico and take a photo of me buying it and then drinking it on the shore. That's now
And the
style.
bizarre counter to all of that too is that we have the ability to see into the lives of these celebrities, and they're not happy people.
So, and
They are
I,
miserable people. So there's this ideal of achieving all of this wealth and status and influence
no,
and
this
all
is
that
important.
stuff, and yet at the
Yeah.
same time we can look at the people that have it, and there's really nothing to look up to.
So I think
there.
this is a really important point that I want to bring up that relates to my whole theory is based on perception of perception. So it's not about being happy, it's about making people think that I look good. It's making people
Mhm.
think that I am happy.
Yeah.
It's making people
Right.
jealous, envy, like all of these things that I felt, and I'm saying the proverbial I, right? I felt this looking at influencer Cindy. So if I look like Cindy, people will feel like how I felt. It's the
Right.
perception of perception that is being achieved. So we can imagine though, of everything I've said about Gen Z have a hard time understanding this and that. Imagine how they feel
Right.
to be seeing this, like this is reality. This is Instagram reality. None of this is real. And this is already hard enough to achieve, and they do not think that that's good enough.
Yeah.
That's the underlying thing is the feeling of just like constant failure, constant regret, paradox of choice, all the things that they're experiencing through that perception because it's not about being happy. And this is where it falls apart, and this is why it's the psychosis. Because the deeper you get into recognizing and seeing people aren't happy in it, when you're invested in these Instagram cultures, it makes you feel better for maybe an hour about yourself. Like, oh, maybe I don't want that life. And the way these mental illnesses work is your brain literally outsmarts that. It finds another thing to grab onto, and the addiction and the algorithm kick in to get that instant gratification. Like there's no winning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, like, it
Short
seems so
life.
cut and dry, but this is why it has become this much of an issue that even adults are sucked into this. It's not just a youth issue that we're seeing this so far with black and white thinking, political commentary, rhetoric, all the things we know today of podcasts. Like it's the extension, it's everything. And my focus and my work, with the center is to just simply save our generation. Like we are not too late. I do not believe we are too late. We can save Gen Z and we can change Gen Alpha's course of action through, reclaiming your own life and being human.
It's
Well,
important
you know
for
what?
parents. It's important for parents, and I think this is the one thing I've been able to do with myself is accept my responsibility,
Yeah.
take the blame, and admit you made a mistake and fix it. You can't sweep this under the rug with your kids,
Right.
right? And it's critical that parents become the boss. And yes, your child has feelings, but they're a child. When you
Right.
were 14, what was it like? When you were 15, what were you thinking? And I used to point this out to people that would say things about their kids, and I go, "What were you doing when you were 14 years old?" And I'm going, "Oh, geez, oh man, oh, thank God my kids aren't like me."
Right.
But that's important now. That the
So here's a
parents
few
today look back
observations.
and say, "Wow, this is what I was going through. What's my
Yeah,
kid going through?"
exactly.
Right?
So
With the
here's a few
pressure.
observations I've made in our conversation, and we're almost out of time. Kayleigh, as you were describing this mindset of if I only looked like that, then I'll have that status, so I'll look that like the influence or whatever. It reminds me of a friend of mine who has bipolar.
Mm-hmm.
And when he's in a manic state, he would go out and buy things that he felt other successful people had. So if he had the same thing, it would obviously make him successful.
Yep.
And he ended up driving his family into complete devastation
Yeah.
financially
Yeah.
because he was in this manic state of always having the perspective of, oh, they do that, so that's what I'm going to do too. They have that, so if I have that, then I'll be as successful. And so I'm feeling now, just sort of having this epiphany, that this manipulation that's taking place is almost putting people into this consistently manic state
It's a
where our
psychosis.
perspectives are completely skewed
Yes.
from what's real, and we're wreaking devastation in our wake and
Yeah.
not even able to identify that and
And
recognize
at the
it.
same time, like on these apps, because you're exactly correct. You are completely correct. And at the same time, you're being infiltrated with ads,
Yes.
Right.
right?
Being
And it
told-
knows what you're going to click on and buy and
Yes.
purchase, and the Temu and Shane and Amazon, all the ads that are there. That was my debt. I have nothing to show for the thousands of dollars of debt that I went into when I was 21. It was fast fashion clothing
Yeah.
because it knew I'm a 21-year-old girl that can be manipulated, right? So it's a very important point, Jackie. I'm glad you brought that up because that's the way it works, right? And people are in this state of psychosis.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to come back to a question, Iain, that I asked you early on, which was knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently as a parent when Kayleigh was 13? That Christmas time.
She wouldn't have got a phone. I mean, she wouldn't have got a phone. And I think as a parent of a child today, I'd be trying to find things for them to do, like, skiing or playing hockey or doing something, committing something that's going to help the child be with other children to grow up and not be looking at their phone. So if we're playing baseball with a team, well, you're not looking at your phone. You're looking at your gloves and you're looking at the ball coming at your head. So if anything I could tell any parent today, it's focus and pay attention to your child and stop looking at your goddamn phone. Put it down because the parent's doing it.
And even
That's-
if you're
yeah,
looking at
exactly
your
right.
email, you're doing work, whatever, the kid doesn't know that. And
No.
I think
No.
that's a really important
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
I get it. Like my calendar is my life. And if my child was watching me go on my calendar all day, they don't know.
Right. So that's where
Right.
you explain to your child. So here, let me show you what I'm doing on my phone so you understand. This is how I
A
use
tool.
my phone.
Yeah.
It's a tool. And these are the things I look at. I'm not looking at what other people are telling me. And one of the things, it's hard for kids to understand this, but I try and express it whenever I can. And it's like, those people aren't being nice to me. They're talking about me behind my back, or that sort of, self-paranoia we all tend to have at times. I always remind them, well, what do you do? Or when you talk about someone behind their back and you're gossiping about somebody, isn't that the same thing?
Yeah.
So what then? So what then? That's the attitude you should take. It's going to happen. It's the way we are as human beings. Where a lot of us are nasty, and a lot of us are
Yes.
kind. Excuse me, but I think that's something that's important to understand is we all seem to be stuck in our own little footprint and forget there's other footprints coming around with
Yeah.
us.
Well, and I also think we have this, parents somehow feel like they have a responsibility to help their children avoid pain. We don't
Yeah.
want them to feel sad. We don't want them to feel left out. Well,
I
let
think
them
what
have
I've
those
learned,
feelings. Those feelings are important, and they're lesson learners.
Yeah.
They're lesson teachers is actually what they are, right? Is having feelings and working through the feelings rather than putting a Band-Aid over them, which I think is
Yes.
also another part of this. And the other thing I was going to say is I see a lot of parents on their phones or on a device, their kids are going crazy all around them, and they're even talking to them without taking their eyes off the screen.
Yeah.
Johnny, quit doing that. Don't hit your sister. Things
Yeah.
like that. And all the kids see is there's mom is distracted and they want the attention. So they're going to act up to get any sort of attention that they can. But they also recognize that, hey, that thing that mom's got in her hand is far more important than I am. So there must be something of importance to that
Right.
thing.
That's it.
And so I'm going to have my own important thing here as soon as
Mhm.
I can.
Mhm.
Um,
when I was
Ian
going,
and Kayleigh, this has been a great conversation. I'll give you one last word here, and I've got one last question for you. But it is unfortunately time to wrap up. But this has just been so powerful, and I thank you both
thank you.
for being here. Ian, I'll let you say what you were about to say because I'm
Sure.
certain it's impactful. But after that, I also want to know what I asked Kayleigh, which was, how do you get in the groove every day?
Okay.
Okay, so you've got
I,
the stage.
I just wanted to say that it is, I'm a big reader and I'm going to plug Malcolm Gladwell. And I recommend anyone to start reading anything he's written because it really puts perspective of what has happened in life and how life has become what life is. To put that in perspective, my parents grew up and were born in the Depression. So my father was born in 1926 and my mother was born in 1927. So when they were 10, they were in the heart of the Depression.
Mm-hmm.
So that became how they raised me with frugality and sensibility and logic and go play in the mud. It's,
Right.
but their objective was don't let them die.
Yeah.
And that's
Let
it.
him starve to death.
Well, I mean, I'd rather have my child go through pain and punishment as a form of discipline and learning experience than, oh, let's coddle them and protect them from that pain and suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah.
was one of the dilemmas that we had in our house growing up with Kayleigh when she was a baby and all of the kids. I was a disciplinarian. Okay, you're grounded. You did something stupid. You're grounded. 24 hours later, her mother let her reprieved. So we never got to carry the discipline through.
Right.
So, and it's again the sort of the generations of what we're raised with. So parents today, they didn't suffer like my parents did. And parents today, you're not suffering like your parents did. And that's where it's important. I think really, I want to end it all is just saying, what was it like when you were a child? As a parent, look back, remember what it was like. Now try and put yourself in your child's footprints, in their shoes, knowing that. Don't put yourself in your children's shoes as an adult because that's not what they are. They're children. So put
Right.
yourself back to what it was like. Remember the feelings and the emotion and the experiences you had when you were 10, 11, 12, 13, and now apply it to your children and how they think. Because that, I guarantee you, has not changed.
Right.
And I will
Cool.
stop there.
And be the boss. Be the parent, not the friend.
Yes.
Be the parent, not the friend.
Be the
All
parent, not the
right.
friend. You cannot be friends with your child. My mother taught me that. My mother taught me that. So,
So Ian, how do you get in the groove every day?
um, I made fun earlier and I raised the coffee cup, and Kayleigh, I think that was her response as well with the coffee. I'm gonna bypass that and just assume that's the natural heroin we all take in the morning. And I get going, and I actually express this well with my friend, is that I don't turn my brain on until I've done my word puzzles.
Ah,
So I've got,
right.
I do like the Wordle and Quordle, which is 4 words that you
Right.
have to guess and so on. So that's really what gets my brain turned on. I really don't do much. Like I may check email, but it's the
Yeah.
word games. I sit
Well,
down,
they
get
do
them
say,
done, and okay, I'm sort of awake and aware now, and my brain's turned on. So
right? They
that's what
do
gets
say
me.
that's good for prevention of Alzheimer's and dementia and those types of things is
Well, reading, yeah,
to do
reading and walking.
puzzles
Yeah,
and
reading and
puzzles.
walking and
Yeah.
puzzles. Yes,
Yeah.
puzzles. Yeah. So, and then
Absolutely.
one of the things I do with the work I do, I work part-time in artificial intelligence. I'm training artificial intelligence, believe it or not. It's
Wow.
sort of ironic in our world, Kayleigh and
Yeah.
I. But I'm doing mild things. It's in the background, small stuff.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing is sometimes I have time while I'm working in my tasks and I work on puzzles. So
Yeah.
keeping the mind moving. So that's how I get in a groove every day is
Good.
thinking and getting my brain to
Awesome.
turn on.
Awesome. All right. Well, you definitely both have helped our brains and emotions to turn on today, and I really appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
It's been delightful to hear the story. It's not been delightful to understand all the pain that you were put through this process, but the important part is you're inspiring so many of us now to think differently and to understand things more and to see that there are other options to then
Love your
the
child.
norm.
Yeah, the thing,
Absolutely. So thank you
pay
both for
attention to your
being
kid.
here.
Yeah.
It's a
Thank you
wonderful
very much for the
perspective.
time today.
Yeah, thanks, Jack.
Yes, you're welcome. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Again, if you have not seen Kayleigh's episode, please go back and watch that and then rewatch this one to get the full scope of Kayleigh's work. Please make sure that you find Kayleigh, digitalrecoverycenter.org. And center is spelled the Canadian way with a CENTRE instead of ER. So make sure that you know about
We'll
that.
figure
So
that one out later.
yeah. So find her amazing work there. And thank you for tuning in, and tell your friends to tune in to In the Groove with Todd and Jackie. Until next episode, have a great day.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
That's a wrap for this episode of In the Groove with Todd and Jackie, where good vibes meet great conversations and change makers take center stage.
We hope you've been inspired by today's guest and are ready to bring more positivity, connection, and impact into your world.
If you love this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs a little groove in their life.
And don't forget to check us out on toddandjackie.com for more great conversations.
Until next time, keep shining, keep grooving, and keep making a difference.